Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and I wish you all a happy new year. Most movie channels already uploaded their top 10 videos, but I always give myself a little bit more room to breathe and catch up with movies that I have missed. Since I'm living in Austria, I'm not always able to see everything, because many Oscar contenders, for example, only get released here at the beginning of the next year, so in the next few months, which always results in a handful of movies that I haven't seen yet, but could very likely be top contenders for my list. This time those are 1917, Little Women and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Unfortunately, I also haven't caught up with documentaries yet, but from all the movies that I did indeed see this year, I would say it was a pretty great film for cinema once again, and it was quite hard to narrow it down to just 10 spots. But as you might know from my previous lists, there will be a lot of honorable mentions, because after all I think the goal isn't just to make this ultimate set-in-stone top 10 of the year, but to give people some great titles to check out for themselves and just spread the word. But without further ado, let's get started.
因为生活呀，不光是你去做什么，更是你如何去做。
Number 10. The Farewell. There are a lot of movies that are based on true stories, and so is Ludo Wang's semi-autobiographical drama The Farewell. But here it's put a little bit different. This film is based on an actual lie. In China it apparently is quite common not to tell a beloved old family member when he or she is terminally ill. They shouldn't need to carry the burden of knowing that they will die soon. It's the family that is doing it for them. The family becomes the bearer of sadness and grief, and I felt as if this film is making the audience share that feeling and responsibility with them as well. It's a very calm, very heartfelt and honest film. It features a beautiful, haunting soundtrack that I've listened to a lot since it came out, and it's one of those films where I can really willingly drown in its melancholy atmosphere. And at its center it also gives us a wonderful performance by Awkwafina. My first honorable mention is one of the very first films that I saw in 2019, and what a wonderful start into the new year it was. Kumbalangi Nights is a Malayalam language comedic drama that was directed by Madhu C. Narayanan. It's about four brothers and their love-hate relationships and daily struggles in rural Kerala. And the beautiful nature of that region is almost like a character itself. It is an absolutely charming, leisurely paced, beautifully chill and tender, almost meditative, yet quite realistic and honest feel-good movie that definitely fits the movie category that Dennis and I love to call Malayalam chill. It also features one of Fahad Fazil's craziest performances. At the heart of my second honorable mention is also a sibling relationship, the Lego Movie 2, the second part, which isn't as fantastic as the first film, but still a wonderful, highly creative and also clever animated movie. The screenplay was once again written by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and it was directed by Mike Mitchell. I'm honestly shocked and frustrated how relatively little money the Lego Batman movie and this one made at the box office. And because I'm afraid many people still have no idea how great these Lego movies are, I just have to mention it at this point. It also features the super fun and catchy song Not Evil, sung by Tiffany Haddish. I think the song alone is reason enough to watch this film. Number 9. Parasite. I'm not always on the same wavelength with his movies, but there's no doubt that Korean director Bong Joon-ho is one of the most unique and out there filmmakers working today. He's known for tackling social issues in a highly entertaining fashion and also in a way that's playing with different genres and conventions. His newest film Parasite is a tragic comedy that's also a drama, also a crime movie, and especially towards the end, also a horror thriller. It's one of those movies that you better know as little as possible about before you watch it. It's clever, it's playful, it's highly original, and it's super entertaining. The basic story is about two families and how they are interacting. One family from the underclass and one very rich that is living in a beautiful secluded house. This is where most of the film takes place, and it's wicked, gorgeous to look at, dense and quite complex and thought-provoking, and that's all I want to say. Many of just said attributes can also be used for my next honorable mention. Rian Johnson's Knives Out also takes place in a giant mansion and deals with a lot of family dynamics. And it's also wicked, gorgeous to look at, dense, and just beautifully crafted. It's a modern whodunit brought to life by a fantastic cast and great direction, and it's definitely one of this year's most entertaining films. Another real crowd pleaser and just wonderful feel-good movie is Dolomite Is My Name. It was directed by Craig Brewer and it marks the impressive comeback by Eddie Murphy, who portrays the real-life legend Rudy Ray Moore, a comedy and rap pioneer who became a 1970s blaxploitation phenomenon. It's a little bit like Ed Wood or The Disaster Artist. It's funny, it's empowering, and it's simply a good time. Number 8. Shazam. I couldn't believe just how much I adored this film. David F. Sandberg's Shazam has such a big heart, and it made me re-experience what I always loved about superhero movies in the first place. This honest, genuine feeling of heroism. It's the story of young Billy Batson, a foster child who has been on his own for a very long time and who has to find his place and feel loved again. Who gets superpowers and has to learn to use them for the right reasons. Not only is Shazam a really funny film, but it's also quite brutal, which I think is used perfectly to up the stakes and in the end create this very compassionate story about family, belonging, and being a real hero. And it's not just Zachary Levi who shines as the titular superhero Shazam, but Asher Angel as the young Billy Batson, and especially Jack Dylan Grazer as his new best friend Freddie Freeman are so natural and wonderful. And my two honorable mentions are also from the realm of comic book movies, but they couldn't be more different. Of course, I'm talking about Avengers Endgame, the culmination of more than 10 years of the MCU, and also Joker, which gave us a very different approach to the genre. I think both films succeed in their own rights and showcase the range that is possible when done with passion and talent. Giant spectacle that doesn't forget about its characters and their emotions and relationships on one side, and a dark, intimate, disturbing character portrait carried by a mesmerizing performance and a haunting score on the other.
J'ai un nouveau sentiment. Le regret. Quel en est le titre? Portrait de la jeune fille en feu.
Number 7. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This was one of my favorite movie-going experiences of the year. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a masterful French-language slow-burn romantic period drama. It was written and directed by Céline Sciamma, and it stars Noémie Merlan and Adèle Haenel, who slowly but surely fall in love with each other. It is an incredibly precise, visually stunning and staggeringly staged and acted film that doesn't waste a single shot. It barely has any music, and yet it's able to create its own rhythm by the way the camera, the actors and the editing are put together. Every little narrative step builds towards the next, and if you are a careful viewer, you can witness how both women come closer to each other with every passing minute, and how their relationship and their love slowly ignites. I always try to come up with at least some connective tissue for my honorable mentions, but I don't really have much with this one, except maybe that it also features two fantastic performances. Christian Bale and Matt Damon are great in Ford vs Ferrari, and the film, directed by James Mangold, is running like a well-oiled machine. In the end, it was a bit too formulaic for me, but I can't deny that it's damn entertaining, tightly produced and just a well-crafted fun film full of nice set pieces. My next honorable mention is also moving in very familiar genre conventions, though they put a little spin on it, and it's not every day that I really fall for a romantic comedy. But Jonathan Levine's Long Shot, starring Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen, is actually a real fun, smart and also topical and relevant little crowd pleaser.
Отпусти его.
Куда его отпущу? Он же отморозок!
Number 6. Why Don't You Just Die? Russian filmmaker Kirill Sokolov's first feature film is bursting with energy and creative splendor. Why Don't You Just Die is an incredibly stylish, brutal and well-structured action comedy cocktail that I described in my review as a great mixture of Quentin Tarantino, Sergio Leone, Danny Boyle, Guy Ritchie and Wong Kar-wai, which is of course very high praise. With the limited resources and budget he had, Sokolov, who also wrote the screenplay, tells the perfect story and unfolds it in all of its beautiful craziness exactly the right way. Just a few characters, basically just one main location, and really cleverly put together. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you don't mind cartoonish bloodshed, you will be rewarded with a super fun, super tight film that is not without a good message at its heart as well. And speaking about brutal, fun and also surreal experiences, my next honorable mention is Jordan Peele's second feature film, Us. Its themes and overall plan are not as easy to pinpoint down as in his previous movie Get Out, and it might come across as overburdened with ideas, but I think it's a very good Twilight Zone-like horror mystery thriller that will make your head spin. Lupita Nyong'o is also incredible in a double role in this tale of mysterious doppelgangers. I also highly recommend The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is also a debut film and, like Why Don't You Just Die, highly stylized, but in a very different manner. Joe Talbot's film might very likely be the most beautiful looking and sounding film of the year. Adam Newport-Barrow's cinematography is stellar, and Emile Mosseri's score is on almost daily repeat at my place.
It's not as simple as not being in love anymore.
Eventually, it'll be the two of you having to figure this out. Together.
Number 5. Marriage Story. There was no other film this year that wrecked me as much as Noah Baumbach's heartbreaking but also compassionate look at a marriage breaking up and how both parties are dealing with the situation. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver absolutely shine, and the film perfectly balances out both sides. Both their characters, Nicole and Charlie, feel completely real, and both have so wonderful character traits to them, and both have their flaws, as human beings do. There are moments where we want to give blame to one of them, and then the other way around, but it's almost never that easy, and Marriage Story is a deeply human portrayal. It has loud moments, it has moments in which all the anger and frustration are boiling up, but most of the time it's rather calm. I think what makes this film so heartbreaking is that it shows how life has to go on. There just isn't a way for these two people to stay together, and that totally sucks, but that's how it is and now they have to deal with it. And yet it's definitely not a film without hope or warmth or even some very funny moments. And while we're at movies that can wreck you, my next honorable mention is Pixar's Toy Story 4, which doesn't surpass the third film for me, but is still wonderful as it is. The very first Toy Story was a crucial film of my childhood, and to see the same characters all these years later, still together, still helping each other on new adventures, is a very special thing. And once again, Toy Story 4 isn't just a fun animated movie, it has all of the familiar themes of the series and puts them even more front and center this time around. Another wonderful animated movie that I want to share with you as an honorable mention is the Christmas-themed comedy adventure Klaus that was just released on Netflix in November. It features beautiful traditional animation and a heartwarming, funny and poignant story that gives us a new spin on Christmas. I already know that I will revisit it next holiday season.
You want to be a part of this fight? A part of this history?
Whatever you need me to do, I'm available.
Number 4. The Irishman. Yes, it's quite a commitment. 3.5 hours is a long time, but that didn't stop me from watching it 2 times in 1 week, because I think Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is a damn fine film. All its de-aging technology definitely took some time for me to digest, but seeing Robert De Niro, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci united for the very first time in a crime epic by Scorsese is something very special. And all 3 actors are used wonderfully here. It has all the gangster flavor that you expect, but it's also a very sincere and, especially towards the end, very melancholic human drama and deconstruction of this gangster lifestyle. It takes us on a long journey through the lives of these people and also through some crucial events of American history. Now I got 2 honorable mentions left before we get to my top 3 best movies of 2019. One is from Spain and the other from Germany. The first is Pedro Almodóvar's Dolor y Gloria, Pain and Glory, starring Antonio Banderas as an aging film director who reflects on the choices he's made in his life. It's very melancholic, but also vibrant and colorful. It makes you dream, and it also ignited my love for the movies of Pedro Almodóvar, because up until that point I only knew one other, but after seeing Pain and Glory I immediately checked out more, and I'm very thankful for that discovery. The other pick and also last honorable mention is probably the hardest watch of all the movies mentioned today. Jan Bonny's Wintermärchen. The international title is Germany, A Winter's Tale, and it chronicles the lives and horrendous crimes of 3 right-wing radicals. A Winter's Tale is extremely bleak, and after around 30 minutes or so I thought I might turn it off because I kind of knew what kind of film this was and where it would go and so. But I didn't, because it had a very strange effect on me that only grew as the film progressed. The interactions between the 3 protagonists and their actions against other human beings are so uncompromising and alarming. It's a very powerful film, but due to its intense subject matter, definitely not for everyone. But now, here are my top 3 best movies of 2019.
You having a good time?
Yes.
This is me. This is how I win.
Number 3. Uncut Gems. This one is also not for everyone. Benny and Josh Safdie's newest film Uncut Gems has to be one of the most stressful, exhausting movie experiences I had in a long time. But strangely enough, this is meant as a positive. It is super hectic, it is fast, it is dense, it is a tour de force. And at its center we have Adam Sandler in the best role of his career as the New York City jeweler Howard Ratner. Similar to Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's performance, we are with Howard for almost the entire duration of the film. There's a small prologue that strongly emphasizes on one of the film's main themes, capitalism. But apart from that brief segment, we glue on Howard's back and follow him wherever he goes. And he's constantly moving, constantly looking to score the next big thing, constantly trying to save his own skin. We are with him for just a few days, but from that time we totally get a picture of this man. This seems to be the culmination of everything that came before. Uncut Gems feels like a high wire act, in which Howard is always on the brink of losing everything, up to even his own life. It's a frantic experience, but the Safdie brothers keep it together at all times, and it's not just a tense, exhilarating ride for the entirety of its runtime, but it lingers on after it's long over, and the mythical sounding score by Daniel Lopatin is something quite special as well. At first, it doesn't even seem to fit the movie, and yet it perfectly captures this otherworldly sphere that Howard seems to operate in. All in all, a very unique film.
What is this? Re-ask the questions!
Number 2. Booksmart. This film made me laugh, made me fill up with joy, made me excited about its direction and fantastic cast like no other this year. I had heard that it's supposed to be pretty good, but I wasn't ready for how fresh and awesome it was. In her very first film as a director, Olivia Wilde absolutely kills it. Booksmart is filled with great characters and the direction is flawless. It tells the story of 2 best friends, Amy and Molly, who on the eve of their high school graduation just realized they should have worked less and played more. So they try to catch up and party hard. Films like Booksmart are the perfect example for me that silly, outrageous, seemingly lowbrow high school or college comedies can also be great movies. Of course, comedies are even more subjective than other genres, but for me, Booksmart was comedic gold from beginning to end. Not only is the screenplay and dialogue very sharp and the editing and especially the sound mixing and use of songs on point, but its 2 lead actresses have a lot of chemistry and are awesome on their own as well. Especially Beanie Feldstein, who's the sister of Jonah Hill, is so talented and charismatic. It's a pure joy to watch her. And Booksmart walks this perfect line of portraying two best friends who feel real and whose emotions and struggles feel real, and also being this very heightened, exaggerated comedy film in which each and every character is somewhat eccentric and memorable. For me, it's the total package. An earnest, heartfelt coming-of-age film, a super sharp and out-there comedy, and also beautifully crafted altogether. And my number one best movie of 2019 is Peranbu. This one stayed with me all year. I saw it very early on, and just to make sure, I just rewatched it before this list, and yes, it's still up there. Now, is it an easy film? Absolutely not. And I will say it takes patience, it takes empathy. It can be challenging, it can be a hard watch, and I might sound naive, but I think it's a film that has the chance to really make a lasting impression and, as schmaltzy as this may sound, make us a little bit better as human beings. The title Peranbu translates to compassion or great love, though it is also released under Resurrection internationally. It is a Tamil language movie that was directed by Ram. It stars Mammootty, one of India's absolute megastars, who has more than 400 acting credits on IMDb, in a very special role. That of a single father who tries to raise his daughter. Doesn't sound so special at first, but his daughter has cerebral palsy, and things that are just normal everyday tasks for us can become like climbing Everest to her. Still, the story could be told in a very mainstream-like sweet fashion, but that's not Peranbu. This movie kept surprising me with how far it is willing to go. In its 2.5 hours, which are almost poetically divided into 12 segments, it is dealing with a lot of subject matters that are regarded taboo, but that are actually so basic and normal to our being human. Peranbu is unbelievably tender and compassionate. It's about nature, about life, about the way we treat each other. It can be absolutely beautiful, and it can also be so very cruel and devastating. The score by Yuvan Shankar Raja is wonderful, and it's a film that I will never forget. If you decide to check it out, please watch it with an open mind and an open heart. I think it's an incredibly brave, beautiful and groundbreaking film. So that's my top 10 best movies of 2019 list. But now I want to know yours. Please let me know in the comments below, and please let me know what you think about my picks. I also want to thank you for supporting the channel, for supporting me and Dennis the Bodymeister, and for sticking with us for all this time. Or if you're new, welcome to the channel. I hope you like what we're doing here. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd simply at The Jimmy Cage. And if you want to support us even more and also get some extra content and more ways to participate, even choosing films for us to review, you can now join us on our newly launched Patreon account at patreon.com/thejimmycage. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like, and make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.